At 3:47 a.m., the darkness over the northern route of the Donets River corridor carried with it an unnatural stillness. On the banks, Ukrainian reconnaissance teams whispered into encrypted headsets, monitoring radio chatter that crackled aboard the Russian convoy's lead tank transporter. The convoy, 6 heavy tanks, 3 infantry carriers, and a command vehicle crept through the cold shadows, flanked by 2 BMP escort units and air defense vans. Every vehicle's infrared signature glowed faintly in night vision. The Ukrainian drone controllers waited in tense silence. The plan was surgical. At 3:52 a.m., 3 composite frame FPV drones, each welded with 3.2 kilogram shaped charges, launched from concealed ramps deep within a forested enclave to the convoy's east. Their flight path was low and serpentine, hugging treetops and riverbanks to reduce radar exposure. They converged from 3 bearings, one from ahead, one from the northern flank, and one from behind. Each drone's camera feed streamed real-time video to operators nearly 25 kilometers away. By 3:56, the convoy's lead BMP driver radioed to his column. Unidentified contacts, low altitude, multiple vectors. The air defense vans responded. A 1L, 122 Bulat radar flicked to life, tracking 3 small contacts approaching at 245 kilometers per hour. Surface-to-air missiles, SA-18 Igla, were ready. Anti-aircraft autocannons were brought online. The northern flank drone, call sign Volya, was first to be detected. Its fuselage gleamed in radar returns. The convoy's air defense crew swung a 23mm ZU-23 twin gun mount upward. Tracer streams tore into the sky as Volya twisted sharply, slip maneuvering behind thick foliage. The gunfire clipped its wingtip. Sparks erupted, but it continued moving. Pilot diverted it away, trading speed for survival. Simultaneously, from ahead, the drone Sokol dove in. It cut power for a split second, becoming a radar ghost. The convoy's crew noticed the silence just as Sokol reactivated engines at 120 meters altitude. The Igla missile system attempted a lock, but lost signal as Sokol banked sharply and ascended. It released its shaped charge downward onto the underside of the first tank. The warhead detonated. The vehicle shuddered violently. Treads disintegrated. Fire erupted beneath the turret. Smoke spiraled upward. At the moment of the blast, the third drone, Zerka, from the rear, picked its target, the command vehicle. It slithered in low, under radar horizon. The command unit's 7.62mm machine gun crews, alerted by the explosion, scrambled to fire. But Zerka moved too fast, too low. It embedded its charge into the rear engine compartment. Shockwave disabled both the engine and hydraulics. The command vehicle halted. Within seconds, the convoy's formation began to collapse. Tanks slowed. Infantry carriers stopped. The Russian crews scrambled from vehicles. Radios crackled alarms. Attack from drone swarms. Rear hit. Lead disabled. Across the field, Ukrainian controllers cheered quietly. They initiated Phase 2, launching 2 stealth UAVs, each named Strela and Borovoy. These were longer-range munitions, with 8-kilogram warhead payloads, optimized for pinpoint strikes using the earlier disruption as cover. Their launch points were concealed in ravines kilometers away. At 4:01, Strela appeared as a heat trace on the convoy's superior radar. The Russian air defense vans attempted to engage. A shrapnel battery from an Akash AAM system was triggered. Spraying fragments upward, Strela powered through at 180 kilometers per hour and dropped altitude to just 1.5 meters above ground. It pierced gaps between trucks and carriers. It slammed into the fuel tank of a BMP, triggering a secondary fireball. The explosion jolted neighboring vehicles, and the concussion knocked out optics in 2 adjacent units. Moments later, Borovoy dove from starboard flank, targeting the middle tank of the column. It smashed into the turret ring, rupturing hydraulic lines and disabling traversal. The tank was effectively immobilized. Chaos erupted. Russian troops spilled onto the road. Anti-air crews tried firing man-pads upward, but the drones dodged and vanished. Smoke and fire mingled with the darkness. Some infantry carriers attempted to push forward, but they were trapped behind burning wrecks. By 4:05, only 2 tanks remained functional, and the command unit was out of action. The entire convoy had come to a standstill under relentless drone fire. Ukrainian controllers issued a final command: withdraw. As Volya re-entered the area for a cleanup pass, it found the command vehicle forcibly abandoned, its tires shredded, its systems dead. The drone dived and dropped a fragmentation charge inside the cab. A final burst silenced it forever. At 4:08, the assault ended. Drones retreated, slipping back into forests beyond radar reach. On the convoy's trail lay 7 destroyed vehicles, dozens of wounded or dead, and vital intel cables severed. Russian radio traffic sputtered, searching for reinforcements. The Ukrainian side had lost 0 drones. The result stunned local command. In one swift, brutal ambush, a convoy that had seemed secure had been eviscerated deep in contested territory. Word would spread. Ukraine's drones could now reach into Russian rear lines and strike with surgical precision. By 4:10 a.m., the fire along the Donetsk corridor had grown into a chain of smoldering silhouettes. Diesel fumes and black smoke drifted upward, forming a haze that shimmered in the early pre-dawn air. Russian radio channels filled with overlapping distress calls, fragments of speech, static, and panic. Convoy struck. We've lost the command vehicle. Unknown number of UAVs. Requesting KS support. The nearby forward command post at Valuki intercepted the transmission, but couldn't locate the source amid heavy jamming. Ukraine's electronic warfare teams had been waiting for this moment. Hidden inside an abandoned grain silo, 12 kilometers east of the ambush zone, two operators from Ukraine's Sila 12 cyber unit monitored their signal intercept displays. Their jammers, disguised within agricultural equipment, had been pulsing low-band noise across Russian frequencies for over 2 hours. Every time a Russian crew tried to communicate, their signal bent back into static. Every time they attempted GPS relinking, the coordinates flickered and died. The ambush was not merely physical. It was electronic dismemberment. The remaining Russian tanks attempted to reorganize. The lead surviving T-90M, codenamed Berkut 2, tried maneuvering out of the kill zone, dragging the damaged carrier behind. Its commander barked orders through an internal comm line, but without satellite sync, the convoy's navigation grid was blind. The operator flipped open a top hatch, hoping to spot escape paths through the smoke, and that was when the faint mechanical hum of another drone reached them. This was Klish, a Ukrainian loitering munition specially designed for delayed insertion. It had been circling high above since the first explosion, using a silent electric motor and optical camouflage to remain invisible to infrared scans. When its AI sensor suite detected renewed vehicle movement below, it initiated descent. Its warhead wasn't large, just 4.5 kilograms of RDX-shaped charge, but its precision made it lethal. The tank's gunner spotted a faint shimmer above. Contact! Sky! But the warning came seconds too late. Klish dropped vertically, piercing through the smoke columns, its camera locking on the tank's heat bloom. A final whir of blades, then impact. The detonation tore through the engine deck, igniting stored ammunition. A violent bloom of fire erupted skyward. The blast radius flattened nearby infantry, scrambling for cover. In seconds, Berkut 2 became a charred carcass, its turret blown several meters away. The ground shook from the explosion. Ukrainian drone controllers confirmed via thermal feed. No movement detected in the center of the column. Only 3 vehicles remained operational on the far end. 1 APC, 1 fuel carrier, and a logistics truck hauling spare ammunition crates. But those survivors had lost their bearings entirely. They turned off main lights, creeping through scorched dirt roads, illuminated only by burning wreckage. At 4:18, a second wave of drones launched from a concealed rail yard in Kupiansk. Heavier, longer-range attack models from the Kobzar platform. Unlike the nimble FPVs used earlier, these were semi-autonomous hunter drones with onboard image recognition algorithms capable of pursuing specific vehicle shapes even when operator control was lost. Each carried twin tandem charge warheads, one to puncture armor, the second to ignite fuel. The first, Kobzar 1, came in from the north at 4:21, guided by IR signatures still glowing from burning metal. Russian troops, disoriented and blinded by the smoke, fired into the air in blind arcs, wasting ammunition. The drone locked onto the moving fuel truck. The operator, watching the feed in real time from an underground command post near Sloviansk, whispered a single word: execute. Kobzar 1 descended in a near vertical dive. The impact was surgical. The warhead detonated precisely between the rear fuel drums. A blinding flash engulfed the road. For a moment, the world turned white. Then came the shockwave. It swept through the valley like a sledgehammer. The concussion flattened saplings and tossed debris hundreds of meters outward. That explosion marked the turning point. It wasn't just an ambush anymore. It was annihilation. Russian communications went completely dark. Survivors tried to flee on foot, abandoning their wrecked armor. But drones lingered, circling overhead like silent predators. One unmanned aerial vehicle hovered low, streaming live reconnaissance footage to Ukrainian artillery units waiting miles away. The first, Kobzar 1, came in from the north at 4:21, guided by IR signatures still glowing from burning metal. Russian troops, disoriented and blinded by the smoke, fired into the air in blind arcs, wasting ammunition. The drone locked onto the moving fuel truck. The operator, watching the feed in real time from an underground command post near Sloviansk, whispered a single word: execute. Kobzar 1 descended in a near vertical dive. The impact was surgical. The warhead detonated precisely between the rear fuel drums. A blinding flash engulfed the road. For a moment, the world turned white. Then came the shockwave. It swept through the valley like a sledgehammer. The concussion flattened saplings and tossed debris hundreds of meters outward. That explosion marked the turning point. It wasn't just an ambush anymore. It was annihilation. Russian communications went completely dark. Survivors tried to flee on foot, abandoning their wrecked armor. But drones lingered, circling overhead like silent predators. One unmanned aerial vehicle hovered low, streaming live reconnaissance footage to Ukrainian artillery units waiting miles away. The data was clean: infrared hotspots, movement paths, and terrain outlines. Within 5 minutes, Ukrainian M777 units recalibrated coordinates and locked onto the escaping infantry cluster. At 4:28, the first artillery shell landed. The roar echoed across the ravine. Another followed, and another, the explosions merging into an unbroken roar that seemed to swallow every other sound. Drone cameras captured it all. Waves of orange flashes cascading down the dirt road as shells pounded the remnants of the convoy. It was not random shelling. Every shot was guided by live UAV telemetry. Precision, not chaos. When the barrage ended, silence returned. The entire road was a graveyard of molten metal, ruptured tires, and twisted steel frames. The forest canopy glowed faintly with ember reflections. The Ukrainian operator teams, exhausted but exhilarated, logged off their control systems. In less than 40 minutes, an entire Russian mechanized column meant to reinforce positions near Lyman had ceased to exist. By sunrise at 5:03, satellite imagery from commercial constellations confirmed the devastation. What had been a 12-vehicle convoy now lay as fragments across a 3-kilometer stretch. Fires still burned. Russian emergency response drones attempted to assess damage, but retreated when Ukrainian jammers reactivated. Thermal data leaked to Western analysts within hours, and by mid-morning, independent monitors had verified the strike. It was one of the most precise drone-guided ambushes of the entire war. The shock reverberated across Russian command channels. Analysts at Belgorod and Kursk headquarters demanded explanations. How could a convoy protected by both radar and electronic countermeasures be wiped out so swiftly? The answer lay in Ukraine's evolving doctrine. This was not a simple FPV swarm. It was a layered kill web, a coordinated fusion of electronic warfare, signal interference, delayed strike timing, and psychological exploitation. Each drone acted as both weapon and sensor, feeding back data that guided artillery, jamming, and additional launches. By 6 a.m., the surviving fragments of the convoy had been fully abandoned. Ukrainian special operations teams moved in on electric motorcycles, moving fast and silent through the mist. They carried portable signal scramblers, rifles, and extraction gear. Their mission was to retrieve intelligence from the destroyed command vehicle. Any hard drives, maps, or encryption keys that had survived the fires. One operator climbed into the charred cabin and pried open the dashboard. Inside, amid soot and melted plastic, he found a scorched but intact hard drive. He radioed back. "Package secure." They withdrew immediately, leaving behind blackened wrecks that smoldered in the damp morning air. Crows began to gather above, circling the road. By 6:20, the team was gone. The road returned to silence. At 7 o'clock, Russian rescue units finally reached the site. Their trucks halted before the first crater. The air stank of burned fuel and scorched metal. The landscape was unrecognizable. A soldier stepped forward and whispered under his breath, "God, what happened here?" His commander didn't answer. He just stared at the twisted hulks and the half-melted remains of their convoy's insignia. The scene was apocalyptic. Unbeknownst to them, several Ukrainian drones still lingered at high altitude, quietly recording everything, documenting the aftermath for both intelligence and morale. These feeds would later appear on encrypted Ukrainian channels, where soldiers watched in awe as the destruction unfolded, frame by frame. By midday, those same clips circulated globally. Satellite firms verified the coordinates. Independent OSINT accounts posted before and after imagery. Western media picked it up by evening, calling it one of the most devastating small drone ambushes of the modern era. Russian defense spokesmen tried to downplay the event, calling it an accidental munitions fire, but digital forensics from multiple sources dismantled that claim within hours. The drone footage told the truth. Methodical, clinical precision, no accident. No luck, just mastery of the unmanned battlefield. This was not merely a tactical victory, it was symbolic. It proved that even in the mud and forests of eastern Ukraine, the era of armored dominance was ending. No convoy, no matter how well equipped or escorted, was safe from the invisible eyes above. The battlefield had evolved, and Ukraine now dictated its rhythm. By the time the sun reached its late morning zenith, the war zone that had once been a lifeline route for Russian armor was nothing but a charred corridor of silence. From overhead, satellites recorded the skeletal remains of burned tanks and twisted carriers lying like carcasses scattered in the dust. Smoke rose from the craters in thin, slow ribbons, catching the pale light of day. To any observer, it looked like the aftermath of an airstrike, but no aircraft had ever been near. The destruction had come from machines no larger than motorcycles, launched by hands unseen. At 9:15 a.m., Ukrainian command released its first coded message Through an encrypted field channel, the report was succinct. Convoy neutralized. 11 confirmed destroyed. Electronic warfare operational. No friendly losses. In the underground command post near Sloviansk, officers gathered around a projection table, displaying infrared snapshots of the road. Dots representing surviving Russian heat signatures flickered, then vanished. Operation complete, one officer said quietly. No cheers, no applause, only the faint hum of servers, the heartbeat of the digital front. 15 kilometers to the north, intercepted Russian transmissions painted a different picture. Frantic, broken, desperate. Field commanders demanded air reconnaissance, but the skies above the Donets were already saturated with Ukrainian interference. One pilot, flying in Su-25 sortie from Belgorod, reported his sensors flickering mid-flight, his GPS offset by over 30 kilometers. The interference was so precise that his targeting systems showed phantom waypoints, the work of Ukraine's decoy algorithms, creating digital ghosts where nothing existed. The pilot turned back, unable to confirm coordinates. While Russian commanders scrambled, Ukrainian technicians in an abandoned warehouse in Kharkiv analyzed the hard drive recovered from the ambushed convoy's command vehicle. The drive was cracked, scorched, its casing melted, but the core platter survived. For hours, forensic experts coaxed data from its surface. Bit by bit, fragments of mission files, maps, and internal communications were reconstructed. What they found was explosive, detailed schedules of Russia's reinforcement movements toward Lyman and Kupiansk, complete with logistic routes and radio encryption frequencies, valid for the next 30 days. It was a goldmine of operational intelligence. By evening, the implications became clear. The convoy had not just been a supply route. It was the vanguard of a larger armored push meant to stabilize Russian positions before winter. Its annihilation shattered that plan. Without those reinforcements, the front line east of Kupiansk weakened. Ukrainian mechanized brigades moved in days later, exploiting the vacuum with surgical speed. What had begun as a drone ambush on a remote road cascaded into a full tactical reversal across the sector. But the shockwaves went far beyond the battlefield. In Moscow, defense analysts convened an emergency briefing inside the Ministry of Defense. Satellite data, leaked drone footage, and intercepted chatter all pointed to the same conclusion. Russia's armored mobility was no longer secure anywhere inside the contested zone. The general reportedly slammed his fist against the table. "These aren't just toys," he growled, gesturing at the looping drone footage on screen. "They are rewriting the rules." An aide responded quietly, "Sir, they already have." Within 48 hours, the Kremlin ordered a full review of convoy operations across Belgorod and Luhansk sectors. New directives were issued. Limit movements to night hours. Activate radar coverage every 5 minutes. Maintain permanent air escort. But none of it addressed the root problem: Ukraine's invisible dominance in electronic warfare. Every new system Russia deployed was already being studied, jammed, or outmaneuvered. Every new route mapped and predicted through live satellite correlation and drone reconnaissance. It was a game of chess where Ukraine had already anticipated the next 10 moves. At the front, morale diverged sharply. Ukrainian units, invigorated by success, circulated the drone footage among their ranks, not as propaganda, but as proof that ingenuity could overpower brute force. Soldiers in trenches watched on tablets as the convoy erupted in flames. They understood now that every small team, every drone operator, could wield the power once reserved for missiles or artillery divisions. War was becoming democratized. For Russian troops, the psychological collapse was equally swift. Survivor testimonies later revealed that after the first explosions, many believed they were under attack by aircraft or cluster munitions. When they realized it was drones, small, cheap, and unstoppable, fear gave way to disbelief. One sergeant described it in a leaked report. "It was like being hunted by ghosts. They came from everywhere. You don't even see them until the sky explodes." That sense of helplessness began spreading across other units, corroding confidence in armor protection and chain of command safety. Crews started driving under camouflage nets even at night, engines off, terrified that any heat signature might invite death from above. Meanwhile, Western analysts tracked the event closely. The footage, verified through metadata and heat signatures, reached defense think tanks in London and Washington. Experts dissected every frame, drone angles, entry vectors, explosion sequences, and came to a chilling consensus. Ukraine had achieved a level of battlefield coordination that blurred the line between human decision and machine autonomy. Each drone acted as both attacker and sensor, part of a synchronized ecosystem of warfare. This was not improvisation anymore. It was doctrine. By the third day, the Kremlin faced the inevitable fallout. Russian state media hesitated to cover the ambush, but satellite images leaked online. The charred skeletons of tanks lay exposed for the world to see. OSINT investigators compared vehicle chassis numbers and confirmed losses: 2 T-90Ms, 1 T-72B3, 4 BMP-2s, 3 logistics trucks, and a command vehicle. No survivors were found at the center of the convoy. The destruction was total. Within Russian online circles, whispers spread. The Convoy of Ghosts, they called it, because no one ever returned from it. In Kyiv, the general staff issued a terse statement on Telegram. Ukrainian defense forces successfully disrupted enemy reinforcement in the Donetsk corridor. Drone warfare continues to shape the future battlefield. The post went viral within minutes, shared thousands of times, turning the ambush into a symbol of Ukrainian ingenuity. International media ran headlines framing it as a paradigm shift. The night the drones devoured a convoy, but beneath the public triumph, Ukrainian commanders knew the ambush represented something deeper. It demonstrated that the war had entered its third phase, hybrid autonomy. No longer was the front line defined by trenches or artillery ranges. It stretched across frequencies, algorithms, and invisible code. Ukraine's drones no longer needed direct human guidance for every strike. They could learn, adapt, and act semi-independently, selecting targets based on pattern recognition and battlefield logic. The Donetsk ambush had been a rehearsal for what came next, the fully automated kill web. As night fell again over the ravine, where the convoy once stood, a final drone passed overhead, silent, gliding, watching. It wasn't armed. Its only purpose was observation. Its lens captured the glowing embers of twisted steel and the faint outlines of the battlefield below. Those images would feed into Ukraine's AI training datasets, helping future drones learn from this night. Every movement, every explosion, every signature of defeat. The machine was learning faster than any human could. On the Russian side, silence lingered. Recovery teams picked through debris under the weak glow of headlights. They counted bodies, collected fragments of cereal plates, and recorded damage reports no one would publicly acknowledge. One officer paused beside the crater where the lead tank had been obliterated. He stared at the soot and fragments of armor plating, then whispered to no one in particular, "We used to fear planes, now we fear shadows." In the following weeks, Russian convoys began taking extreme detours, moving only under cover of forest canopies, shutting down engines at intervals to confuse sensors. But every adaptation invited new countermeasures. Ukrainian drones began dropping passive sonar pods that detected vibration and movement, triangulating convoys even through heavy foliage. What had started as an ambush had evolved into a slow, relentless suffocation of mobility. By December, Russian fuel transport losses had tripled compared to the previous quarter. The convoy ambush had not just destroyed vehicles, it had crippled trust in movement itself. International observers compared the event to the first time tanks were rendered obsolete by portable anti-armor missiles decades earlier. The lesson was the same. Dominance shifts not through size, but through precision, speed, and imagination. The Donetsk ambush would be studied in war colleges for years to come, a case study in asymmetric mastery. Weeks later, when Ukrainian drone engineers gathered in a dimly lit workshop outside Dnipro to review combat footage, one of them rewound the video to a single frame. The exact second Sokol, the first FPV drone, struck the lead tank. The explosion froze on screen, a bright orb suspended in darkness. "That's where the new age began," he murmured. The others nodded in silence. Around them, on steel tables, new drones waited, sleeker, smarter, hungrier. The ambush had ended hours after it began, but its echoes would reshape the entire theater of war. It proved that control of the air no longer belonged to those with the largest bombers or the most missiles. It belonged to whoever mastered the smallest machines, the quiet hunters with no pilots, no fear, and no hesitation. And on that cold, scorched road by the Donets, amid burned armor and blackened soil, the world caught its first glimpse of the future of warfare. A future written not by generals, but by algorithms, propellers, and the courage of those who dared to use them.